I'm Georgina, 35 years old, and I never thought I'd see my sister Amanda on my doorstep again. Not after she kicked me out of our family home with false accusations, smiling as I left in the rain with nowhere to go. Yet here she stands, soaking wet all her possessions in one bag, begging for shelter. The universe has a strange way of bringing things full circle. Now, I have to decide whether to help the person who destroyed my life or shut the door. Where are you watching from today? Let me know in the comments below. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button to join our community of real-life stories. Trust me, you'll want to see how this one unfolds. Family is supposed to be your foundation, the people who stand by you no matter what. That's what I always believed growing up with Amanda, my little sister, who's 5 years younger than me. We were inseparable as children, sharing secrets in our blanket forts, defending each other from playground bullies, and staying up late to watch movies. Our parents thought we were too young to see. I still remember Amanda's bright eyes looking up at me with complete trust and admiration. She followed me everywhere, trying to walk like me, talk like me, even insisting on getting the same haircut. Mom used to laugh and call us the twins with a time delay. Those were golden days filled with the simple joy of sisterhood. Our parents were hardworking middle-class people. Dad worked as an electrical engineer for the city, and Mom was an elementary school teacher. They weren't wealthy by any means, but they provided us with a stable, loving home. The two-story brick house on Maple Street wasn't fancy, but it was filled with laughter and love. We had traditions like Sunday pancake breakfasts and summer camping trips that bound us together as a family. Everything changed when I was 22 and Amanda was 17. It was a rainy night in October. My parents were driving home from their anniversary dinner when a drunk driver ran a red light and hit them head-on. Neither survived the impact. I still remember the police officers standing at my college dorm room door, their faces solemn as they delivered the news that shattered our world forever. In an instant, I became Amanda's legal guardian. She was still a minor, just starting her senior year of high school. I made the decision immediately to drop out of college, where I had been studying business management on a partial scholarship. My dreams of graduating and starting my own company evaporated overnight. Instead, I moved back into our childhood home and got 2 jobs to keep us afloat. During the day, I worked as an administrative assistant at an insurance company. At night, I waitressed at a local restaurant. The hours were brutal, but the tips helped supplement the modest life insurance policy our parents had left. I was determined that Amanda would still go to college. That had been our parents' dream for both of us, and I was resolved that at least one of us would fulfill it. Those first months were difficult. Both of us were grieving, and suddenly I was responsible not just for myself, but for my teenage sister. I had to learn how to be a parent overnight, helping with homework, attending school conferences, and trying to provide emotional support while processing my own grief. Amanda graduated high school the following spring. I still remember how proud and heartbroken I felt watching her accept her diploma, knowing our parents should have been there. That summer, she was accepted to State University with a partial scholarship. Between that student loans and every extra penny I could scrape together, we made it work. I put all of my own dreams on hold, focusing solely on giving Amanda the future our parents had envisioned for us. Looking back, I think the changes in our relationship started when Amanda went to college. She joined a sorority and began spending time with a crowd of wealthy students. When she came home for holidays, I noticed small differences at first. She complained about the food I made, compared our modest home unfavorably to her friends' parents' houses, and made subtle comments about my appearance and lifestyle. I tried to brush it off as normal teenage rebellion, but as time went on, the distance between us grew. The sister who once looked up to me now seemed embarrassed by me. She stopped bringing friends home and made excuses to avoid our traditional family celebrations. When I tried to talk to her about it, she accused me of being jealous of her new life and opportunities. Despite the growing tension, I continued to maintain our family home. It was the only real connection we had left to our parents, filled with their possessions and our childhood memories. I couldn't bear the thought of selling it, even when money was tight. I took out a small loan to fix the leaking roof and spent weekends painting the walls and maintaining the garden our mother had loved. This house was more than just a building to me. It was the physical embodiment of our family history, the last place we had all been happy together. As Amanda pulled further away from me and our shared past, I clung even tighter to these tangible reminders of what we had lost. I never imagined that one day this same house would become the battleground for the ultimate betrayal between sisters. 2 years ago, Amanda graduated from college with a business degree. Despite the growing distance between us, I was incredibly proud. I had fulfilled my promise to our parents, ensuring that at least one of us completed higher education. After graduation, Amanda moved back into our family home. I hoped this would be a chance to rebuild our relationship, to find common ground as adults sharing the space where we'd grown up together. By this time, I had worked my way up to a middle management position at the same insurance company, where I'd started as an administrative assistant. Years of night classes, extra projects, and dedicated work had finally paid off. I wasn't wealthy, but I was financially stable for the first time since our parents died. I had even managed to start a modest savings account and was finally thinking about possibly returning to college part-time to finish my own degree. When Amanda moved back in, I was surprised by her expectations. She had landed a good entry-level marketing job at a prestigious firm, making more as a starting salary than I had after years of work. Yet she seemed to think her contribution to household expenses should be minimal. She explained that she needed to build her professional wardrobe and network with the right people, which apparently required expensive dinners and weekend trips with colleagues. I tried to have reasonable conversations about sharing costs, but these always ended in arguments. Amanda would remind me of her student loans and suggest that since I had chosen to stay in our childhood home instead of moving forward, the financial burden should be mine. She conveniently forgot the sacrifices I had made to put her through school in the first place. Things got even more complicated when Tyler entered the picture. Amanda met him at a company event. He was the son of one of the firm's major clients. Tall, conventionally handsome, and dripping with the confidence that comes from never having to worry about money, Tyler embodied everything Amanda had come to aspire to. The first time she brought him to our house, I noticed his slight grimace as he stepped into our living room. His eyes scanned our modest furniture and family photos with barely concealed disdain. When I served dinner on our everyday dishes, the same ones our mother had used for family meals, he made a joke about going vintage that made Amanda blush with embarrassment. "This place has character," Tyler said, in a tone that suggested it wasn't a compliment. "But seriously, Amanda, you could do so much better. With your salary and what Georgina must be making by now, why stay in this old place?" That was the beginning of a campaign. Almost every time Tyler visited, he would make comments about the house, the outdated kitchen, the creaking stairs, the size of the bedrooms. He would show Amanda listings for luxury apartments and condos on his phone, pointing out features like granite countertops and building amenities. Soon Amanda was echoing his sentiments. "We should sell this place, Georgina," she said one evening after Tyler had left. "Property values in this neighborhood have gone up. We could split the money and both get nice apartments in better areas." "This is our family home," I reminded her. "Mom and Dad raised us here. All our memories are in these walls." "That's exactly the problem," Amanda replied, her voice sharp. "You're living in the past. Mom and Dad would want us to move forward, not cling to an outdated house just because they once lived here." The arguments escalated over the next few months. I discovered that Amanda had actually contacted a real estate agent to get a valuation on the house without telling me. When I confronted her about it, she was unapologetic. "We both own this house, Georgina. I have just as much right to explore our options as you do." Technically, she was right. Our parents' will had left the house to both of us equally. But it felt like a betrayal of everything I had worked for, all the sacrifices I had made to maintain our family home while putting her through college. The situation grew even more tense when Amanda and Tyler began treating our home like a personal party venue. They would invite friends over, without warning me, leaving the kitchen a mess of empty bottles and dirty glasses. Twice I came home from work to find strangers lounging in our living room, music blaring, while Amanda was nowhere to be seen. I tried to establish boundaries to explain that this was my home too, and I deserved consideration. Amanda accused me of being controlling and old-fashioned. Tyler suggested I loosen up and reminded me that Amanda was a grown woman who didn't need her big sister acting like her mother. I felt increasingly like a stranger in my own home, the home I had fought so hard to keep. Little did I know that the worst betrayal was yet to come. and that soon I would be the one standing outside in the rain, looking in at the life that had been taken from me. The day everything fell apart started like any other. I had been away on a 3-day business trip, my first since getting the promotion. It was a small regional conference in Chicago, and I had been nervous but excited about representing my company. The trip had gone well, and I returned home feeling accomplished and eager to share my success with Amanda, hoping it might bridge some of the growing distance between us. As soon as I walked through the front door, I knew something was wrong. The house had that particular emptiness that suggests more than just a temporary absence. Amanda's car was in the driveway, but the house felt different somehow. I set my suitcase down in the hallway and called out, "Amanda, I'm home." No answer. I walked through to the kitchen, noticing small changes along the way. A picture frame missing here, a decorative box gone there. In the kitchen, I found Amanda sitting at the table scrolling through her phone. She barely looked up when I entered. "Hey," she said flatly. "How was the trip?" "It was good," I replied, still looking around. "Is something different in here?" Amanda shrugged. "Not really, just did some cleaning." I opened the cabinet where Mom's special occasion china was kept, the set that had been passed down from our grandmother. It was empty. "Amanda, where's Mom's china?" "Oh, I boxed it up. It was just collecting dust." A sense of unease crept up my spine. I hurried upstairs to my bedroom and went straight to my jewelry box. My mother's pearl necklace, the one she had worn on her wedding day and had given to me on my 21st birthday, was gone. So was the emergency cash I kept in an envelope at the back of my drawer. Heart pounding, I rushed back downstairs. "Amanda, my pearl necklace is missing, and so is my emergency money." "Did you move them?" Her face changed then, a flicker of something, guilt defiance, crossing her features before she composed herself. "I haven't been in your room, Georgina. Maybe you misplaced them before your trip." Just then the front door opened, and Tyler walked in without knocking. He did a double take when he saw me. "Oh, you're back," he said, sounding displeased. Then to Amanda, "Ready to go dinner reservations at 8. That's when I noticed it, gleaming on his wrist, my father's vintage Omega watch. Dad had treasured that watch, saved for years to buy it as a symbol of his first big promotion. It was one of the few valuable things he owned, and it had been sitting in my dresser drawer since his death. I hadn't been able to bear wearing it, but I couldn't part with it either. "Where did you get that watch?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Tyler glanced at his wrist, then at Amanda, who had suddenly become very interested in her phone. "This old thing, Amanda gave it to me last week. Said it was just sitting around gathering dust." He shrugged as if it were nothing. "Vintage is in right now." The room seemed to spin around me. I turned to Amanda, who was now standing, her posture defensive. "You gave him Dad's watch. How could you—" "It's just a watch, Georgina. Dad's not here to wear it. What's the point of keeping it locked away?" "That wasn't yours to give," I shouted, tears springing to my eyes. "And what about Mom's pearls and the cash from my room? Did you take those too?" Amanda's face hardened. "Actually, I think you've been stealing from me." I stared at her, unable to process what I was hearing. "What?" "My rent money went missing last month, and so did my gold bracelet. At first, I thought I'd misplaced them, but then Tyler's watch disappeared from the bathroom after you used it. We found it in your car." "That's insane," I sputtered. "I've never taken anything from either of you." Tyler stepped forward, his voice smooth as oil. "Amanda told me about your issues, Georgina. The depression after your parents died, the financial problems. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but taking things that don't belong to you is serious." I looked from his smug face to Amanda's cold one, realization dawning. "You're framing me after everything I've done for you." "I've noticed other things too," Amanda continued as if I hadn't spoken. "The way you look at Tyler when you think I'm not watching. The inappropriate comments you make when we're alone." "What?" I was genuinely confused now. "What comments?" "Don't play innocent," Tyler interjected. "You've been coming on to me for weeks. It's uncomfortable, and frankly, it needs to stop." I was speechless. This was beyond comprehension. My own sister was standing there accusing me of stealing and making sexual advances toward her boyfriend, both complete fabrications. "You're lying," I finally managed to say. "Both of you." "Why are you doing this?" Amanda's expression shifted to one of practiced concern. See, this is exactly what I was worried about. The denial, the aggression. I think you need help, Georgina. Professional help. Maybe it's the stress from your job, or maybe you never really processed mom and dad's death properly. I'm not the one who needs help, I shot back. You're making up crazy accusations. Why? What do you want? I want you to get better, Amanda said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. And I think some time apart would be good for both of us. I've been talking to a lawyer about the house situation. The house situation? I repeated numbly. Yes, since we co-own it, but clearly can't live together anymore, the logical solution is to sell it and split the proceeds. And there it was, the real agenda. They wanted me out so they could sell the house. My legs felt weak, and I had to grip the counter to stay upright. I'm not selling our family home so you two can cash out, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Tyler stepped closer to Amanda, putting his arm around her shoulders. Your sister's really concerned about you, Georgina. The erratic behavior, the stealing, the inappropriate comments. It's not healthy for anyone. Stop saying that, I shouted, my composure finally breaking. I haven't done any of those things. Amanda pulled out her phone. I'm going to call Dr. Reynolds. Remember him? Our family doctor. He can recommend someone for you to talk to. Don't you dare pretend this is about my mental health, I spat. This is about the house. This is about money. That's it, Tyler said firmly. Amanda, call the police. The police? I echoed in disbelief. Amanda nodded, her finger already dialing. You're becoming aggressive and making threats. I don't feel safe. I had made no threats, had not moved toward either of them. But I realized with horrible clarity that this had been their plan all along. Create a narrative about my mental instability, provoke a reaction, then use it as evidence against me. This is your home too, Amanda said, phone to her ear. But right now I think you need to leave until you calm down, for both our sakes. Within 20 minutes, 2 police officers were standing in our living room. Amanda tearfully explained her concerns about my deteriorating mental state and threatening behavior. Tyler backed up every lie with calm, articulate statements that made me sound unhinged. When I tried to defend myself, my voice shaking with anger and disbelief, I could see the officers exchanging glances, already deciding who the reasonable parties were in the situation. Ma'am, one of the officers said to me, we strongly suggest you find somewhere else to stay tonight. Give everyone a chance to cool off. This is my house, I protested. I've lived here my entire life. I'm the one who's maintained it since our parents died. The property is in both your names, the other officer noted, having seen the documentation Amanda helpfully provided. And right now your sister is afraid for her safety. She's lying, I cried, which only made me appear more unstable. Georgina, please. Amanda said, tears streaming down her face in an Oscar-worthy performance. Just go stay with a friend tonight. We can talk tomorrow when you're calmer. I looked at my sister, my baby sister, who I had raised after our parents died, who I had sacrificed everything for, and saw nothing of that girl in her eyes. Instead, I saw a cold calculation, a smug satisfaction, as her plan unfolded perfectly. Outside, rain had started to fall. I grabbed my purse and the suitcase I hadn't even unpacked yet for my business trip. As the officers escorted me to the door, I turned back one last time. Why? I asked simply. Amanda's face transformed for just a second, dropping the mask of concern to reveal a smile of triumph. Then, quickly composing herself for the benefit of the officers, she whispered, It's just business, sis. Nothing personal. I walked out into the rain homeless in an instant, betrayed by the only family I had left in the world. The first few weeks after being forced from my home were a blur of disbelief and grief. I stayed in a hotel for 3 nights, spending money I couldn't afford, before a colleague from work offered her spare room as a temporary solution. Somehow, I managed to keep showing up at work, going through the motions, while my personal life collapsed around me. After 2 weeks of couch surfing, I found a small 1-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. It was nothing special. Beige walls, beige carpet, the kind of place designed to be forgotten. But it was within my budget and available immediately, which was all that mattered. I signed a 6-month lease and used most of my savings to pay the security deposit and first month's rent. Moving in was a stark reminder of everything I had lost. My new apartment echoed with emptiness. I had left with only a suitcase of clothes and personal items. All my furniture, family photos, mementos, everything that connected me to my past, remained in the house with Amanda. I slept on an air mattress for the first month, eating takeout because I had no dishes or cooking utensils. The emotional toll was even heavier than the practical challenges. I had lost not only my home and possessions, but also the last remaining member of my family. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. At night, I would lie awake replaying events in my mind, wondering if I had missed warning signs, if there had been some way to prevent what happened. Depression crept in slowly, then all at once. I found myself calling in sick to work more frequently, unable to summon the energy to get out of bed. The thought of running into Amanda or Tyler around town filled me with a mixture of dread and rage. I stopped going to my favorite coffee shop and grocery store, afraid of potential encounters. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, a letter arrived from a lawyer representing Amanda. She was petitioning for full ownership of the house, claiming that I had abandoned the property, and citing concerns about my mental instability. The letter mentioned the police report from that night as evidence. She was trying to erase me completely to pretend I had never existed. That letter was rock bottom. I sat on my air mattress surrounded by the bare walls of a place that would never feel like home, and cried until there were no tears left. Then, in the strange clarity that sometimes follows complete despair, I realized I had two choices: let this destroy me entirely, or fight back. The next day, I knocked on my neighbor's door. I had exchanged polite nods with her in the hallway, but never really spoken. Her name was Sophie, a paralegal at a downtown law firm. Something about her kind eyes and no-nonsense demeanor gave me the courage to ask for help. Over coffee at her kitchen table, I told Sophie everything. She listened without interruption, then immediately started making phone calls. By the end of the week, she had connected me with a lawyer who specialized in property disputes and was willing to take my case for a reduced fee. What your sister is doing is called undue influence, the lawyer Maria Gonzalez explained during our first meeting. Based on what you've told me, she and her boyfriend fabricated accusations to force you out of a property you co-own with the intention of taking full possession. That's not just morally wrong, it's legally actionable. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. Maria helped me file a countersuit and an emergency injunction to prevent Amanda from selling the house while our case was pending. We also discovered through legal discovery that Amanda had manipulated our parents' will. The original document had named me as the primary inheritor of the house, with provisions for Amanda to live there or receive compensation if it was sold. Somehow, the version filed with the probate court showed equal ownership. The legal battle was exhausting and expensive. Even with Sophie's connections and Maria's reduced rate, I was quickly depleting what little savings I had left. There were depositions where I had to face Amanda and listen to her repeat her lies under oath. There were motions and counter-motions, delays and continuances. The legal system moved at a glacial pace while my life remained in limbo. During this time, my mental health deteriorated further. I started having panic attacks, the first of which sent me to the emergency room, convinced I was having a heart attack. The doctor who treated me gently suggested therapy, and despite my limited finances, I knew I needed help. Dr. Pamela Richardson became my lifeline. A compassionate but straightforward therapist, she helped me process not just the recent betrayal, but also the unresolved grief from my parents' death and the years of sacrifice that followed. "You've been in survival mode for so long, Georgina," she told me during one session. "First taking care of Amanda after your parents died, then fighting to keep your home. When was the last time you actually took care of yourself?" I couldn't remember. Dr. Richardson suggested I join a support group for people dealing with family estrangement. It was there, sitting in a circle with strangers who understood my pain without explanation, that I began to heal. I learned I wasn't alone, that family betrayal is a unique kind of wound that requires special care. "Forgiveness isn't about excusing what they did," said Jackson, a group member whose brother had stolen his identity and drained his bank accounts. "It's about freeing yourself from the poison of hatred. You can forgive someone and still maintain healthy boundaries that protect you from further harm." Slowly, painfully, I began to rebuild my life. I found a secondhand furniture store that offered reasonable prices and furnished my apartment piece by piece. Sophie introduced me to her friends who welcomed me into their circle without questions. I started taking walks in the park near my apartment, rediscovering the simple pleasure of sunlight and fresh air. Work became my anchor. I threw myself into projects, stayed late to finish reports, and volunteered for assignments no one else wanted. My boss noticed, and 6 months after being forced from my home, I was offered a promotion and significant raise. For the first time in years, I had financial breathing room. With my improved salary, I was able to increase my legal fund. Maria used these resources to hire a forensic document examiner who confirmed that the will had been altered after my parents' death. This breakthrough strengthened our case considerably. Exactly 1 year after that rainy night when I left my family home, I received a call from Maria. Amanda's lawyer had reached out about a settlement. The legal pressure combined with the evidence of document tampering had finally forced her hand. The terms weren't perfect, but they were better than I had dared hope for. Amanda would buy out my share of the house at market value, and I would drop all other claims against her. It wasn't justice exactly. She wouldn't face criminal charges for the forgery or the false accusations. But it was closure. With the settlement money, I was able to put a down payment on a small house in a quiet neighborhood. It wasn't the family home I had lost, but as I painted the walls and planted flowers in the garden, I realized it could become something just as precious, a place that was truly mine, built from my own recovery and resilience. The day I signed the final papers officially transferring my share of the family home to Amanda, I felt a weight lift. I had lost a battle, but somehow won something more important: my freedom, my peace of mind, and the chance to define myself beyond the role of Amanda's caretaker and victim. As I walked away from the lawyer's office, I silently thanked Sophie, Dr. Richardson, my support group, and even Maria. They had been the family I chose, the people who helped me when I had nothing. I had lost a sister, but I had gained a community. Life has a way of coming full circle when you least expect it. My new job as regional manager at the insurance company kept me busy and fulfilled. I had made real friends, not just Sophie, but others in my support group and colleagues who had become more than just work acquaintances. For the first time since my parents died, I was living for myself, pursuing my own interests, and building a life that wasn't defined by obligation or grief. I rarely thought about Amanda anymore. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard bits and pieces about her life. She and Tyler had indeed sold the family home, our childhood home, shortly after the settlement. They used the money to buy a luxury condo in the trendiest part of downtown, the kind of place with a doorman and rooftop pool. Amanda had posted endless photos on social media showcasing their new lifestyle of expensive restaurants, designer clothes, and exotic vacations. I had blocked both of them on all platforms, but Sophie occasionally updated me when she thought I should know something. It's like watching a reality show about the temporarily rich and permanently tasteless, she would say with an eye roll. I pretended not to care, but there was a small petty part of me that found satisfaction in their excesses. They had taken everything from me for this lifestyle. I hoped they were enjoying it. Then the economy took a downturn. The company where Amanda worked underwent a massive restructuring. Being relatively new and in a position that was considered non-essential, she was among the first wave of layoffs. According to Sophie, Amanda spent months looking for a comparable position without success. Tyler, meanwhile, showed his true colors. As Amanda's financial contribution dwindled, he became increasingly distant. There were rumors of him being seen around town with other women. The expensive lifestyle they had built began to show cracks. "They've listed the condo," Sophie told me one evening over dinner at my place. "Asking prices well below what they paid for it. Market's tanked in that area." I nodded, trying to appear disinterested as I refilled our wine glasses. "Real estate can be unpredictable." "That's not all," Sophie continued, leaning forward. "Word is they're underwater on the mortgage. They took out a second loan last year to maintain their lifestyle after Amanda lost her job. Now they can't make the payments." I should have felt vindicated. This was karma in action. The sister who had betrayed me was facing the consequences of her choices. Instead, I felt a strange emptiness. Revenge, even when served by fate rather than your own hand, tastes different than you expect. A few weeks later, Sophie showed me a post from a mutual friend. Amanda and Tyler had sold the condo at a significant loss, barely covering their outstanding debts. Shortly after, Tyler had accepted a job offer in another state, without Amanda. "She's been couch surfing," Sophie reported. "Stayed with Lisa for a while, then Jen. Now I hear she's run out of friends willing to take her in." I tried to imagine Amanda, always so proud, so concerned with appearances, reduced to begging for a place to sleep. It didn't bring the satisfaction I might once have expected. Life went on. I received another promotion at work, started taking night classes to finally complete my business degree, and even began dating again. Casually at first, then more seriously with David, a kind, stable architect I met through a friend. I was building a life I actually wanted, not one forced upon me by circumstance. Then one ordinary Tuesday, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "Georgina, it's Amanda. I know I have no right to contact you, but I need to talk. I'm so sorry for everything, please." I stared at the message for a long time, emotions churning. My first instinct was to block the number immediately. After all, what could she possibly say that would undo what she had done? But something stopped me. Curiosity, perhaps, or some remnant of the love I had once felt for my sister. I didn't respond, but I didn't block her either. Over the next few days, more messages arrived. "I understand if you hate me. I would hate me too. Everything fell apart after you left. I made so many mistakes. Tyler left me with nothing. All our so-called friends disappeared when the money ran out. I've been working at a diner trying to save enough for an apartment, but it's not enough. I miss you. I miss the person I was when we were a family." I read each message without replying. Part of me was still afraid this was another manipulation, another trap. The sister I had known was capable of elaborate deceptions. Why would this be any different? A week passed and the messages stopped. I told myself it was for the best. Clean breaks heal fastest. I focused on my classes, my job, my relationship with David. Life was good, stable, predictable in the best possible way. Then came the knock at my door. It was a rainy Sunday afternoon, much like the night I had been forced from my home 2 years earlier. I wasn't expecting anyone. David was out of town at a conference, and I had planned a quiet day of studying and laundry. The knock was hesitant, almost too soft to hear over the rain. When I opened the door, the past stood before me in the form of my sister, but a version of her I hardly recognized. The Amanda on my doorstep bore little resemblance to the polished, confident woman who had orchestrated my downfall. This Amanda was thin to the point of gauntness, her designer clothes replaced by a shabby jacket that didn't keep out the rain. Her hair, once perfectly highlighted and styled, hung limp and dull around her pale face. But the most striking change was in her eyes, the cold calculation replaced by something raw and desperate. "Georgina," she whispered as if afraid to speak at full volume, "I know I'm the last person you want to see." I stood frozen in the doorway, unable to process the reality of my sister standing on my porch after everything that had happened between us. "How did you find me?" I finally managed to ask. "Sophie," Amanda admitted. "I begged her for your address. She only gave it to me after making me swear I wasn't here to cause more trouble." Of course it was Sophie, my loyal friend who somehow always believed in second chances, even for people who didn't deserve them. "What do you want, Amanda?" My voice was steadier than I felt. She clutched a small duffel bag to her chest like a shield. "I have nowhere else to go. I lost my job at the diner, couldn't make rent. I've been sleeping in my car for the past week, but it got repossessed yesterday." Her voice cracked. "I know I don't deserve your help. I know what I did was unforgivable. But you're the only family I have left." Rain dripped from her hair, running down her face in a way that made it impossible to distinguish from tears. She looked small, diminished, nothing like the sister who had smiled triumphantly as police officers escorted me from my own home. "Please," she whispered, "just one night. I'll sleep on the floor. You won't even know I'm here. I just need to get out of the rain and figure out what to do next." I thought about closing the door. It would be justified after what she had done to me. No one would blame me, not Sophie, not David, not Dr. Richardson. It might even be the healthy choice, maintaining the boundaries I had worked so hard to establish. Instead, I found myself stepping aside, making space in the doorway. One night, I said, my voice neutral. The couch pulls out into a bed. Amanda's shoulders sagged with relief. She stepped inside, careful not to brush against me, as if she knew her touch might still burn. And so, my sister, the person who had betrayed me, lied about me, stolen from me, and ultimately driven me from my home, entered my life again. What I didn't know then was whether she was returning as family seeking reconciliation or as a snake preparing to strike a second time. The first evening with Amanda in my home was tense, to say the least. She sat perched on the edge of my couch holding a mug of tea I'd reluctantly offered, looking like she expected me to change my mind and throw her out at any moment. I stayed standing, maintaining physical distance, as if proximity might weaken my resolve. "Thank you," she said quietly, staring into her mug rather than meeting my eyes. "I know you have every reason to hate me." "I don't hate you, Amanda," I replied, surprised to find it was mostly true. "Hate requires energy I'm not willing to spend on you anymore." She flinched as if I'd slapped her, though my tone had been calm, not cruel. "I deserve that." I didn't agree or disagree. Instead, I laid out the rules: she could stay one night, possibly two, if she had a concrete plan for what came next. She would sleep on the pull-out couch. She would not touch my things, invite anyone over, or make any calls except for job or housing purposes. She would be gone during the day looking for work. This was not a reconciliation. It was emergency shelter, nothing more. Amanda nodded to each condition, her eyes downcast. "I understand completely. I won't be a burden." As I prepared the pull-out couch with sheets and a blanket, Amanda hovered nearby, clearly wanting to say more, but hesitant to push her luck. Finally, as I turned to leave the room, she spoke. "Georgina, what happened with the house and the accusations? I need you to know that Tyler was behind most of it. He convinced me that we deserved more, that you were holding me back." I turned slowly to face her. "And that justifies what you did. Blaming Tyler doesn't erase your choices, Amanda. You weren't a child. You were an adult who chose to betray the only family you had left." Tears welled in her eyes. "I know. I'm not making excuses. I got caught up in a world I thought I wanted. Tyler made everything sound so reasonable, so deserved. By the time I realized what I'd done, it was too late." "It's late," I said, deliberately changing the subject. "I have work tomorrow. There's food in the fridge if you're hungry, but please clean up after yourself." I retreated to my bedroom and locked the door, something I'd never done before in my own home. Through the wall, I heard muffled sobbing from the living room, but forced myself not to react. Amanda's tears had once been my greatest weakness, the thing that would make me drop everything to comfort her. Now they felt like another potential manipulation, and I was determined to stay strong. The next morning I woke earlier than necessary, half expecting to find my possessions ransacked, or Amanda gone, having stolen whatever valuables she could carry. Instead, I found her asleep on the pull-out, curled into a tight ball as if trying to take up as little space as possible. The kitchen was spotless, cleaner than I usually left it, in fact. I made coffee, the aroma eventually rousing Amanda. She appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair tousled from sleep, looking uncertain. "There's coffee," I said, not meeting her gaze. "I'm leaving for work in 20 minutes. Remember what we discussed. You need to be out looking for work today." "I will," she promised. "Thank you for the coffee, and for letting me stay last night." I nodded stiffly, and retreated to my room to finish getting ready. When I emerged, Amanda was dressed in the cleanest clothes from her small duffel bag, her hair combed and pulled back. She had made an effort to look presentable despite her circumstances. "I'll be gone all day," she said. Is there a time I should come back? I don't want to disturb you." I hesitated, then handed her a spare key. "Be back before 9 p.m. I'll lock up after that, and I'm not staying up to let you in." The trust implicit in giving her a key wasn't lost on either of us. Her eyes widened slightly, and she took the key with a reverence that might have seemed excessive if our history had been different. "I won't misuse this," she said quietly. "I promise." At work, I couldn't focus. My thoughts kept drifting to Amanda in my apartment, wondering if I was making a terrible mistake. During lunch, I called Sophie. "You gave her my address," I said without preamble when she answered. Sophie sighed. I did. Are you furious with me? I should be. But she showed up looking like a drowned rat and now she's sleeping on my couch. Oh, Georgina. Sophie's voice softened. Are you okay with that? No. Yes, I don't know. I rub my temples, feeling a headache forming. She seems different. Broken, almost. But part of me is waiting for the other shoe to drop. What if this is just another manipulation? That's a valid concern, Sophie admitted. But for what it's worth, I don't think she's faking. She came to me absolutely desperate, hadn't eaten in days. She cried when she talked about what she did to you. Real tears, not the performative ones she used to specialize in. People don't change that much, I argued. Maybe not. Sophie agreed. But circumstances can change them. From what I gather, Tyler took everything in the breakup, including her self-respect. She's been working minimum wage jobs, sleeping on couches or in her car. That's a long fall from luxury condos and designer clothes. So I should feel sorry for her because her grand plan backfired. I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. No, you shouldn't feel anything you don't genuinely feel, Sophie said firmly. You don't owe her forgiveness or help. I just think maybe this is an opportunity for closure, whatever form that takes. Even if it's just confirming that the relationship is truly over. When I returned home that evening, I half expected Amanda to be gone, having taken the opportunity to clean out my apartment during the day. Instead, I found her sitting at my kitchen table surrounded by job applications and rental listings printed from the library. I applied for 7 jobs today, she said, looking up as I entered. 3 in person and 4 online at the library. I also checked some rooms for rent, but most want first and last month's deposit, which I don't have yet. I set down my bag, unsure how to respond to this display of initiative. I made dinner, she added hesitantly, gesturing toward the stove where a pot of what smelled like spaghetti sauce was simmering. It's not much, just pasta with sauce from ingredients I found in your pantry. I hope that's okay. I wanted to contribute something. The domesticity of the scene was jarring, as if we had been transported back to a simpler time before betrayal and bitterness had poisoned everything between us. For a moment, I glimpsed the sister I had lost. Not the cold, calculating woman who had orchestrated my downfall, but the girl who had once looked up to me, who had needed me. That's fine, I said, my voice carefully neutral. I appreciate the thought. We ate dinner in awkward silence, both aware of the mountain of unspoken words between us. After helping with the dishes, another olive branch I neither accepted nor rejected, Amanda retreated to the living room, giving me space. Later that night, as I passed through on my way to the kitchen, I caught her looking at something on her lap. Drawing closer, I realized it was a photograph, one of the few personal items she had in her duffel bag. It showed our family, all 4 of us, on vacation at the lake the summer before our parents died. We were all smiling, sun-kissed, and happy, unaware of the tragedy that would soon shatter our world. Amanda was crying silently, tears falling onto the protective plastic covering the photograph. She hadn't heard me approach, and the raw grief on her face was unmistakably genuine. I backed away quietly, unseen, feeling unsettled by the glimpse of vulnerability. Days turned into a week, then 2. Against my better judgment, I allowed Amanda to stay while she looked for stable work and saved for a security deposit on a room rental. She was a model house guest, clean, quiet, and respectful of my space and privacy. She found a job at a local coffee shop working early mornings and contributed a small amount toward groceries from her first paycheck. Sophie urged caution, but seemed increasingly convinced of Amanda's sincerity. People can change when they hit rock bottom, she reminded me during one of our regular dinners. Not everyone, but some. And losing everything, money, boyfriend status, self-respect, that's a pretty solid rock bottom. I maintained emotional distance, polite, but reserved in my interactions with Amanda. We didn't discuss the past, focusing instead on practical matters of the present. But as the days passed, the rigid wall I had built began to develop hairline cracks. The breaking point came unexpectedly. I came home early from work one day, a migraine forcing me to leave before my usual time. I entered quietly, not wanting to disturb Amanda if she was resting between shifts. The apartment seemed empty at first, but then I heard muffled sounds from the living room. Amanda was sitting on the floor by the coffee table, surrounded by family albums. albums I had recreated after losing the originals in our family home. She was sobbing uncontrollably, one hand pressed against her mouth to muffle the sound, the other gently touching a photo of our parents. I should have been angry that she had found and gone through these private memories. Instead, I found myself crossing the room and sitting beside her on the floor. "I miss them so much," she whispered, not looking up. "And I destroyed everything they would have wanted for us. I betrayed not just you, but them too." The words seemed wrenched from someplace deep and painful. This wasn't the calculated performance I had witnessed that rainy night 2 years ago. This was raw, unfiltered grief and regret. "Why did you do it?" I asked the question that had haunted me for 2 years, finally spoken aloud. "After everything we went through together, everything I sacrificed for you, how could you turn on me like that?" Amanda closed the album, her hands trembling. I wish I had a good answer, something that would make sense or justify it somehow. But the truth is, I got lost in who I thought I wanted to be. At college, I met people with money and confidence who made our life seem small and sad. I was embarrassed by our house, our history, even by you and your sacrifices. Her voice broke. Tyler made me feel like I deserved more, like I was being held back by loyalty to the past. He convinced me that you were controlling my life, that I was entitled to more than what I had. You believed him over me, over everything we'd been through together. "I believed what I wanted to believe," she admitted. "It was easier than feeling grateful than acknowledging everything you gave up for me. Gratitude is heavy. It creates obligation. I wanted to feel free, not indebted." Her honesty was disarming. There was no attempt to sugarcoat or justify her actions, just a brutal self-assessment that must have been painful to articulate. "I've spent the last year trying to understand how I became that person," she continued. "The kind of person who could hurt someone who only ever tried to protect me. I don't recognize her anymore, that version of me. And I'm so, so sorry, Georgina. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, doesn't undo the damage. But I need you to know that I understand what I did, and I live with that knowledge every day." She reached into her pocket and pulled out something small that caught the light. It was a ring, our mother's emerald ring, the one she had always worn alongside her wedding band. "This is the only thing I kept," Amanda said, holding it out to me. "I hid it from Tyler. He wanted to sell everything, but I couldn't bear to part with this. It should be yours. I've kept it safe all this time, waiting for a chance to return it to where it belongs." I stared at the ring, remembering how it had looked on our mother's hand. The emerald that matched her eyes, eyes that Amanda had inherited. With trembling fingers, I took it from her. "Thank you," I whispered, closing my fist around the cool metal. It was more than just a ring. It was a tangible connection to our shared past, a recognition of the family bonds that still existed despite everything that had happened. In that moment, something shifted between us. Not forgiveness exactly. The wounds were still too fresh, the betrayal too profound for that. But perhaps the beginning of understanding. We had both lost so much: our parents, our home, each other. And while Amanda's actions had been unforgivable, her remorse seemed genuine, her suffering real. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said softly. "I wouldn't in your place, but I want you to know that I'm trying to be better, to be someone Mom and Dad wouldn't be ashamed of, someone you might not hate someday." I looked at my sister, really looked at her for the first time since she had appeared on my doorstep, and saw not the entitled, manipulative woman who had orchestrated my downfall, but a broken person trying to find her way back from a terrible mistake. "I don't hate you, Amanda," I said again, but this time without the coldness of before. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again, but I don't hate you." It wasn't much, but it was honest. And in that small, honest moment, the first tentative thread of reconnection was spun between sisters who had lost and found each other in the most painful of ways. Family relationships are never simple, even under the best circumstances. When those relationships have been fractured by betrayal, rebuilding requires more than good intentions. It demands patience, consistency, and the courage to be vulnerable again, despite the risk of renewed pain. Over the next several months, Amanda and I navigated this complex terrain, sometimes stumbling, sometimes making unexpected progress. What began as an emergency one-night stay extended indefinitely, though not without clear boundaries. Amanda continued working at the coffee shop, eventually being promoted to shift supervisor. She contributed to household expenses, kept the common areas immaculate, and respected my need for space and privacy. On the surface, we functioned as polite roommates rather than sisters, the familiarity of shared blood masked by the formality of our interactions. But beneath this careful dance of coexistence, something was slowly changing. The return of my mother's ring had marked a turning point, not forgiveness exactly, but an opening a crack in the wall I had built around my heart. 2 months after Amanda moved onto my couch, I came home to find a letter on the kitchen table. It wasn't addressed to me, but the return address caught my eye. It was from a therapist's office across town. "I've been seeing Dr. Martin for 6 weeks," Amanda said quietly when I asked about it. "Twice a week. I'm trying to understand why I did what I did, why I let Tyler influence me so completely. I don't want to be that person ever again." I nodded, unsure how to respond, but acknowledging the significance of this step. The Amanda I had known before, proud, image-conscious, unwilling to admit weakness, would never have sought therapy, let alone shared that information voluntarily. A week later, at Dr. Richardson's suggestion, I agreed to attend a joint therapy session with Amanda. It was intensely uncomfortable at first, sitting side by side in Dr. Martin's office, both of us rigid with tension. "I'm not here to force reconciliation," Dr. Martin clarified at the outset. "Rebuilding trust takes time, and forgiveness must be freely given, not coerced. Today is simply about creating a safe space for honest communication." For over an hour we talked, really talked, for the first time since Amanda had appeared on my doorstep. She shared insights from her individual therapy, how her resentment of my sacrifices had turned into a toxic sense of entitlement, how Tyler had strategically isolated her from anyone who questioned his influence, how she had constructed elaborate justifications for her betrayal to avoid facing the truth of what she was doing. "I was so afraid of being indebted to you," she admitted, echoing what she had said that day among the photo albums. "Every time I looked at you, I saw everything you had given up for me, and it made me feel small and ungrateful. It was easier to believe that you were controlling me than to acknowledge how much I owed you." "I never saw it as a debt," I said softly. "You were my sister. I loved you. I wanted you to have the opportunities I couldn't have. I know that now. But back then, I couldn't bear the weight of your sacrifice, so I convinced myself you were the villain in my story instead of my hero." In my own individual sessions with Dr. Richardson, I had been working through my fear of being hurt again, my reluctance to be vulnerable after such a profound betrayal. Now, in this shared space, I found myself able to express these fears directly to Amanda. "How can I ever trust you again? What happens the next time someone offers you something that seems better than what you have with me?" Amanda didn't flinch from the question. "I can't prove what I'll do in the future. I can only show you who I am today, and keep showing you tomorrow and the day after that. I'm not asking for blind trust. I haven't earned that. I'm asking for a chance to prove day by day that I've changed." It wasn't a magical solution, but it was honest. And honesty, we were both learning, was the foundation upon which any rebuilt relationship would have to stand. The joint therapy sessions continued once a month at first, then more frequently, as we both found value in the mediated conversations. Slowly, we began to rebuild not just sisterhood, but friendship, the kind built on mutual respect rather than mere biological connection or obligation. 4 months after Amanda arrived on my doorstep, she found a better-paying job as an administrative assistant at a local nonprofit. With regular income, she could have moved out, found her own place. Instead, one evening over dinner, she broached a different subject. "I've been saving for my own place," she began cautiously. "But I was wondering if we could discuss a more permanent arrangement here. I could convert the storage room into a proper bedroom, pay half the rent and utilities. But only if you're comfortable with it. I completely understand if you need your space back. I considered her proposal carefully. The past months had shown consistent change in Amanda, not just in her words, but in her actions. She had been reliable, respectful, and genuinely remorseful. The constant anxiety I had felt at her presence had gradually subsided. "We can try it," I said finally, "on a month-to-month basis at first. We'll draw up an actual roommate agreement with clear expectations." The relief and joy on her face was unmistakable, but she contained her reaction, aware that this was a tentative step rather than complete reconciliation. That weekend, with Sophie's help, we cleared out the small storage room and converted it into a modest but functional bedroom for Amanda. As we worked together hauling boxes and assembling a secondhand bed frame, I noticed how careful Amanda was to check with me before making any decision, how attuned she had become to respecting my boundaries and preferences. It was during this process that David, who had been keeping a respectful distance during my complicated reunion with Amanda, finally met my sister properly. I had been nervous about the introduction, afraid that Amanda might revert to her old patterns of charm and manipulation. Instead, she was quietly respectful, acknowledging to David directly that she had hurt me deeply in the past and was working to make amends. "Georgina is the strongest person I know," she told him, her voice steady but emotional. "The fact that she's giving me any chance at all shows a capacity for compassion that I hope to someday deserve." David, who knew the full story of our estrangement, had been understandably protective of me. But even he seemed struck by Amanda's sincerity. "People can change," he told me later that night. "Not everyone does, but sometimes hitting rock bottom forces a kind of reckoning. From what I can see, your sister has had that reckoning." 6 months after Amanda's unexpected arrival, we took another significant step. We attended a family counseling workshop together. A weekend retreat focused on healing estrangement. Surrounded by other siblings, parents, and children working to repair broken bonds, we participated in exercises designed to build empathy and understanding. One particularly powerful activity involved writing letters, not to be shared necessarily, but to articulate feelings that might be too difficult to express face to face. I wrote about the night Amanda had me removed from our family home, the profound sense of betrayal and abandonment I had experienced. Amanda wrote about her shame, her struggle to forgive herself, even as she sought my forgiveness. In a moment of unexpected vulnerability, we chose to exchange these letters. Reading Amanda's words, her unflinching acknowledgement of the pain she had caused, her deep remorse, her tentative hope for redemption, affected me more profoundly than I had anticipated. For the first time, I cried in front of her, releasing years of pent-up grief and anger. Amanda, witnessing my tears, didn't try to comfort me physically or verbally. Instead, she simply sat with me, present, but not intrusive, allowing me the space to feel without trying to fix or minimize my emotions. It was a small thing, perhaps, but it demonstrated a new understanding of boundaries and respect that the old Amanda had never possessed. By the 1-year mark of our cautious reunion, Amanda had been promoted again, was contributing equally to household expenses, and had established a small circle of friends separate from mine. Healthy independence rather than the toxic separation of before. We still attended therapy both individually and together, working through the complex emotions of our shared past. There were still difficult moments, triggers that would resurrect old pain conversations, that would expose still raw wounds. But increasingly, these moments became opportunities for growth rather than setbacks. We were learning to communicate honestly, to express hurt without accusation, to listen without defensiveness. The most profound lesson I learned through this journey was about the nature of forgiveness. For so long, I had thought forgiveness meant excusing what had happened, declaring it unimportant or forgotten. I had resisted forgiving Amanda because what she had done was inexcusable, unforgettable. Dr. Richardson helped me understand a different perspective. Forgiveness isn't about saying what happened was okay. It's about freeing yourself from the poison of resentment. You can forgive someone for your own peace of mind, while still maintaining healthy boundaries that protect you from further harm. Slowly, I came to realize that forgiveness wasn't a gift I was giving to Amanda. It was a gift I was giving to myself. The anger and bitterness I had carried like armor was actually a prison keeping me locked in the past, defined by betrayal rather than possibility. As I gradually released this burden, I found room for something new to grow between us. Not the innocent trust of our childhood, but something more mature and resilient. A relationship based not on obligation or blood ties alone, but on choice, on the daily decision to see each other as we are now rather than who we had been. Today, Amanda and I share more than an apartment. We share a cautious but deepening trust, built brick by brick through consistent actions rather than dramatic declarations. The sister who once betrayed me has become one of my strongest supporters, cheering my recent promotion and encouraging me to finally complete the business degree I had abandoned to care for her all those years ago. Is our relationship perfect? Far from it. There are still moments when doubt creeps in, when old fears resurface. But I've learned that real love isn't about perfect trust or the absence of fear. It's about choosing connection despite the risk about building something new from the ashes of what was destroyed. There are some wounds that never completely heal, leaving scars that change the landscape of our hearts forever. But these scars don't have to define us. They can become part of our story without becoming the whole story. Through this painful journey with Amanda, I've discovered a resilience in myself I never knew existed, a capacity for healing that transcends even the deepest betrayal. Forgiveness, I've learned, isn't the end of a journey but the beginning of a new one. A journey toward a future not dominated by past hurts, but illuminated by the wisdom they have taught us. It's a choice I make anew each day, not because Amanda deserves it, but because I deserve the freedom it brings. Have you ever had to make the difficult decision to forgive someone who deeply hurt you? What helped you move forward? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to hear more stories of healing and redemption. Remember that your story isn't defined by what happens to you, but by how you choose to respond. Thank you for listening, and I wish you strength on your own journey of healing.